On behalf of the Buddhist Vihar, I would like to welcome you and also appreciate for organizing this religious service here in this temple to create some inspirations and guidance amongst our teachers. Today is Hari Guru Day. Hari in Hindi language is Lord or the God. When you visit India, you can hear, especially in Benares, almost every day people are praying, reciting Harihara Mahadeva Sambhu Kashi Vishwanath Gange. The Hari means Lord, the God. Guru is a Sanskrit word. The meaning of this word is one who gained deep knowledge, who can impart that knowledge to others. That person is called Guru. It's a very meaningful word. So you are Gurus, and some are Gurus. That means you have gained knowledge and you are trying to impart this knowledge to others to guide the mankind. So according to the Chinese tradition, a guru or the teacher hold a very high position in the Chinese society. Here in this country, all of you know, Muslims are very fortunate because their religion is well protected and guided by the government, promoted by the government. Christians are fortunate, they have well-trained missionaries who have come from Western countries and trained local people. Buddhists and Hindus are still thinking because they have no opportunities either in the school or at home or in the society for them to learn their own religion. This is a very sad state of affairs. Because of this weakness, people maintain misconceptions, superstitious ideas in the name of religion. At the same time, the other religionists try to ridicule and condemn our attitude, our way of practicing this religion. Anyway, we cannot neglect this religion in this country because Buddhism is the second major religion in Malaysia. It is our bounden duty to guide our younger generation. Otherwise, the country and the nation and the people won't be able to lead a peaceful life. According to my belief, other religions should not interrupt when one religion tries to impart or introduce that particular religion. The reason is, now when we try to develop discipline and moral background and conduct, Buddhist community also can contribute a lot for the peace and happiness of the followers of other religions also. Please remember this. Then why should they interrupt? Why should they disturb? Instead of supporting us for training our younger generation to maintain human dignity and to behave as cultured, harmless, respectable human beings. This is the duty of a religion. So time has come for us to realize the situation and create some sort of inspirations amongst our community, not to challenge others, not to condemn the followers of other religions, not even to convert the followers of other religions into this religion. We have been practicing this religion for more than 2,500 years all over the world. Buddhists and Hindus never tried to convert or to disturb the followers of other religions. That is their principles. We try to maintain the same attitude. But it is our duty to promote to enlighten the people who are ignorant. It is due to their ignorance they make mistakes. Religion can guide them. So you have given me a title or subjects for me to talk. Sattha Deva Manussana. Now this is the subject. When we pay respect or pay homage to the Buddha, we recite Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vijja Charana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati Sattha Deva Manussana. Here. 9 characteristics or the 9 virtues of the Buddha. By mentioning these 9 extraordinary characteristics, we bow down and pay respect in appreciation of developing these great qualities. Our way of worshipping is different. We do not worship the Buddha out of fear. We do not worship the Buddha thinking he is a very powerful religious teacher or prophet or the incarnation of God. We do not worship the Buddha thinking he is the one who rewards and punishes us. That is why I told you our attitude is different. We honor a great religious teacher who achieved, who gained highest knowledge and wisdom and enlightenment. So in appreciation of his highest achievement, we bow down and pay respect and make a resolution. We determine to be like him. This is our way of paying respect. But not to follow him blindly, but to be like him one day. Now let us define the meaning of these two words. The Buddha is known as Sattha Deva Manussana, the teacher of gods and men. Simple meaning. The Buddha is the teacher of gods. Of course, simple G and S also, gods, not capital G. In the Pali and Sanskrit language, we use devas. Devas or gods mean supernatural living beings that which exist in this universe, who have certain worldly power far superior or far better than human beings. They are known as devas or gods. Although we worship them, we do some offerings, but whenever they have certain problems and difficulties, they come to the Buddha. Because the Buddha is the teacher who gained enlightenment. Devas are not enlightened. They have worldly powers. They have limited powers. So they do not know how to settle their problems and difficulties and worries by using their worldly powers. For that I can give you a simple example. We have very powerful, very, very rich people in this country. They work so hard to be rich, to be multi-millionaires, by neglecting even religions. They have no time for religion. When they are in trouble, their money, their property, their power cannot do anything. When their life is in danger, they do not know what to do. Then what they do? They go and pay respect to a penniless man who has renounced the worldly power and money and property and everything, who did not work to be rich. This man goes and pay respect. Please bless me. I am in trouble now. My life also in danger. People are planning to kidnap me and bluff me, and I am worried. I cannot sleep. I cannot eat. I do not know what to do. Please help me. Now you can see the difference. Those devas also, although they are powerful in worldly sense, whenever they have problems, they had to come to the Buddha, who gained supreme enlightenment or wisdom. That although others condemn us as idol worshippers due to their ignorance, now you can understand actually what we do, why we worship. Then he is the teacher of God. Here you can understand the difference. The Son of God and the teacher of God. So the Buddha is not the Son of God, he is the teacher of gods. And Manus, this is another beautiful Sanskrit word. Manusya. What is the meaning of this word? Only living beings in this universe, not only in this world, only living beings who can develop his mind up to the maximum level, that living being is called Manushya. We belong to this group. Even Devas and Brahmas or any other kind of supernatural living beings also never possess this kind of mind to develop up to the maximum level. As human beings, we have potentials. Unfortunately, due to our ignorance, selfishness, our potentials were hidden or eclipsed. Here, the religion is important to wipe out, eradicate those hindrances, mental hindrances, and to bring up, to cultivate the intrinsic or the natural potentials in our human mind. Only religion can do that. That is why religion is important. Religion, or the main purpose of religion, is not only for worshipping and offering or praying. To many people, religion means praying, praying and praying and praying. That is not enough. You can pray 100 times a day, still you are not religious. Still you maintain all your selfishness, cruelty, cunningness, hatred, jealousy in your mind. Your prayers cannot reduce them. That is why it is necessary for you to learn these things, to study, think, understand. After that you can understand whether you pray or not. You can become religious-minded people. You can lead a respectable, noble life. You can respect any religious teacher. That jealousy is no more. You can respect Jesus or Muhammad or Krishna or Buddha or anybody in this world. No harm at all. We have to develop our way of thinking, understanding up to that maximum level. Then, the method adopted by the Buddha for teaching is a remarkable method. When you read the 45 years teachings, discourses, what sort of technique he has adapted according to the mentality, understanding capacity, the character, moods and temperaments. He did not preach just like a recorded tape. He changed his technique by watching, surveying the mentality. That is why he had to keep quiet when certain people come and ask some question, because he knew the questioner cannot understand the answer. If he answers, he creates more confusion. A small child can come and ask very funny questions from the mother. Mother never answers the questions. She says something. Because mother knows this child cannot understand. This is the technique adapted by the Buddha. Some people say, oh, Buddha did not answer because he could not understand. Now take few examples. Alavaka, a cannibal who lived on human flesh, when he wanted to preach and tame this cannibal, known as devil at that time, he went to meet him. He was very violent and aggressive and cruel. He wanted to catch the Buddha and kill him. The Buddha knew simply by preaching he cannot tame. What he did, he stood firmly to show him that he is more energetic and more powerful person. Then that cannibal got frightened. Then he had to reduce his pride. He wanted to challenge. Buddha says, come on, come and challenge. He says, I can kill you. Buddha says, come and try. Here, Mahakaruna, great compassion, patience, tolerance also, we had to practice very tactfully. Then he had to reduce more and more his pride. Finally he had to surrender. Then he said, all right, now I am going to ask certain questions. All right, there is anything you can ask, there is no problem. They had a very nice dialogue. In the end, he had to surrender. He became the follower of the Buddha and promised not to repeat the same uncultured, uncivilized way of life. This is the technique. Now let us take another example. Angulimala, a terrorist in the jungle who has murdered more than 1,000 human beings. He wanted to go and tame this wild, wicked young man. When he reached, this young man wanted to kill him because he killed human beings and cut one piece of finger and collect. That is why he was known as Angulimala, garland of fingers. So what he did, he knew by preaching he cannot tame. he walked, and this man was following him, holding his sword, and allow him to run until he get fed up. He runs, the Buddha walk. But he cannot reach the Buddha to catch him. When he could not reach the Buddha and he was very tired, he said, "Stop." Now then, the Buddha knew this is the time for him to talk. And then he gave a very funny answer. He said, "I have already stopped. You are the one who runs." Then he asked, "What does it mean? Still you are walking, but you say you have stopped." Or you cannot understand the meaning of this word stop. "I have stopped running this repeated birth and death samsara to suffer anymore. I have stopped cruelty and destroying and killing others. I have stopped all the evil deeds. And you are the one who runs. You are the one who kills others. That is why I told you, you run. I stop." Then he asked, "All right, now you did not run, but I run and run and run to catch you, but I could not catch you. What is the secret?" Oh, he said, "It is very simple. Do you know why you could not catch me? Because you run. If you stop your running, you can catch me." He said, "Okay, I stop." Then the Buddha said, "Come." He came nearer to the Buddha. So after stopping his running, he could manage to catch him. Then he said, "I want to follow you." He threw away his sword and followed and became a holy man, a religious man. See the technique. There are hundreds of this kind of technique. There is another important point. In other religions, they try to glorify that they are God who could destroy those wicked devils and asuras and ghosts who endangered innocent human beings. Their God have destroyed them. Here the Buddha's attitude. The Buddha never disturbed those evildoers, wicked people. He did not kill any of them. But by using his knowledge and wisdom and enlightenment, he could manage to pave the way, enlighten them, make them to understand that their attitude is wrong. This is the Buddha's way of teaching. Again, when he preached, he always surveyed the mentality, whether these people can understand what he taught. Because some are very intelligent, some are very deluded mind, and some have low mentality, some are very moody, temperamental, hot-tempered, and some have silly ideas in their mind. By observing this mental attitude, he preached according to the mentality of peace. I can give another example. One day, a group of people came to ask questions. The Buddha's teaching is a very rich philosophy, psychology, because the followers of so many other religions in India at that time, when the Buddha wanted to give a different interpretation, very rational and liberal, meaningful interpretation, and when he revolutionized the existing religious belief, when he pointed out the existing superstitious belief and dogmas, many other religionists could not tolerate. So they wanted to challenge. They came group by group and started to debate, argue. So many dialogues you can see in the basic teachings of the Buddha. So the Buddha had to dig out very rich philosophy and psychology to convince them, to enlighten them. That is why some people say Buddhism is very deep. So when a group of people came to see him to challenge, one of them started asking questions. The Buddha knew his mentality. He said, no, you better wait. He did not allow that person to ask the question. Then, second person, he answered the question. Then again that man, he was very impatient. Then the Buddha said, I asked you to wait. Then the third person, he answered. Again that man asked, no, you better wait. So he allowed all the others to ask question, then he answered. Then he said, now your turn. In the end, he said, now I have nothing to ask. See the technique. Because he allowed this man to listen to all the others. Then naturally, he gradually understanding appeared in the mind. So he is a real teacher of gods and men. His way of teaching is not only for our worldly life, to maintain good health, to be rich, or to gain something. Of course, there are certain discourses where you can find the advices, guidelines given by the Buddha, how to work, how to earn, how to protect or maintain without wasting, and how to spend. All these advices you can find. But the main purpose of his teaching is not for that. Because there are many things that other religious teachers could not find out the answer. What is this? He tried to pave the way for us to see the end of our human problems. Whether we are educated or not, whether we are rich or poor, human problems are the same. Still we maintain same human weaknesses in us. When you study the life of certain philosophers, psychologists, scientists, great thinkers in this world, you can see they are human weaknesses. They are hot-tempered, jealous, and greedy, selfish. These are the things that others could not find out, or the solution to get rid of these human weaknesses. The Buddha emphasized, concentrated more on these human weaknesses. He tried to settle our problem in a realistic way. That means not simply by consoling us, creating some sort of hopes and confidence without analyzing deeply. Otherwise, you should have told us, don't worry. Whenever you have worries and problems, come and pray to me. I will attend to this. After your death, if you have some sort of uncertainty, you can come and pray before your death. I can send you to heaven or Nirvana. This is the way how others try to console you. Buddha never uttered such words. Remember the Buddha's attitude. When he was about to die, certain devas and some other living beings and rajas and maharajas started to prepare beautiful flowers to come and offer last respect. Having heard this, the Buddha said, that should not be the correct attitude to pay respect to a religious teacher. Simply by offering flowers and paying homage and worshipping, you cannot respect your master. If you really want to respect your master, you must try to follow the advices given by your master. Then you respect him. See the Buddha's attitude. But many others say, come and pray and worship. I can forgive all your sins. The Buddha never uttered such words. Very easy, shortcut. The Buddha says, if you make mistake, you are responsible. If another person promised to wash away your sin, indirectly encourage people to commit more and more sins. Therefore, you have to take the responsibility. You have to learn these things earlier. After making all sort of dangerous things, cruelty and atrocity, disaster, in the end, before your death, oh, I pray, please don't allow me to go to hell. Take me to heaven. Very easy. The Buddha's advice is, you must learn why these things are wrong. That is what we are doing. So, when we consider All these methods that he has adapted, you can understand why intellectuals all over the world, whether they are Buddhist or otherwise, many of them were not Buddhist. Let us take a well-known scientist, philosophers and great thinkers, historians and rationalists, even agnostics like Bertrand Russell. Everybody respects the Buddha, not because of asking some sort of favoritism, but in appreciation of his liberal, rational, meaningful teaching, which promoted human dignity. In the Buddha's teaching, you can see how he advised us not to behave as slaves to anybody, not to become slaves either to the Buddha or God or anybody in this world. Maintain your human dignity, behave as human beings. You can practice your religion as gentlemen, not as worms. This credit was given by the Buddha. Then freedom that he has given to us to think freely without depending on your teacher, without depending on any supernatural power, without depending on any authorities. First, you must understand you are not stupid. You also have a mind, human mind. The Buddha think. Then you can understand why it is wrong, why this is right. Not necessary to wait to get the message from heaven for you to understand whether it is right or wrong. You also got human mind. Of course, when we introduce this as a divine message, you pay attention. Only for this purpose they introduce this is a divine message. Everybody knows killing is bad, stealing is bad, telling lies is bad. There is nobody in this world who can say nothing wrong. But people introduce these things as divine message. Before this divine message come down to this earth, when you study anthropology, even few millions of years ago, there were cultured human beings on this earth who realized these things are wrong. We can understand. Again, the Buddha said, I am giving this advice to you not as a divine message and not as a theory or philosophy. I am telling you according to my own experience. No theories in me. I can understand how I had to suffer life after life for the mistake, wicked thing that I have committed. I know how I had to suffer. Again, I can understand how I really enjoy my life. According to all the good deeds that I have done during so many previous births, even today, I am experiencing this peaceful, contented, happy, wonderful life. Not due to the influence of God or divinity, but through my own cultivation, development, purifications of my mind. So, I am telling you, if you also practice without depending on another person to understand whether it is right or wrong, you can understand. See the way or see the technique as a teacher. That's why I told you there are hundreds of methods he has adapted, because he is not an ordinary teacher. He is an enlightened religious teacher. So still we are following, because the message given by him never become out of date. Akaliko. There is no time limit for his message, forever. What he mentioned more than 2,500 years ago, when you apply in the modern society, you can see they are very fresh. Same things. Nothing to withdraw. And continue in the same, because they are common human problems. Whether we are Chinese, Indians, Europeans, human problems are common. Our feelings, our weaknesses, our intelligence are common. Differences are not natural, created by us. Discriminations and differences according to our features, complexions, color, food, dress, way of life. If you can ignore all these things, we cannot find any differences. The followers of any religion in this world, common in every respect, although they have different views and beliefs, we cannot see any difference. Say, from our birth up to the graveyard, similarities. We are common in our birth, whether we are Buddhists or Hindus or Christians or Muslims or those who have no religion, no different kinds of births according to their respective religion. We are common in our sicknesses. No one can say followers of one particular religion are free from sicknesses. Common. We are common in all our worries, miseries, problems and disturbances. All are suffering, irrespective of their religious label. We are common in our old age. Can you point out any religion? The followers, this religion never grow old? Common and natural. Followers of every religion face death, whether they like or not. Then where are the differences? Where is the superiority complex? then why should we fight? For what purpose? It is our jealousy. It is our selfishness. These two things create discriminations and differences. Then, differences we have created after our death. We are very clever. Because we cannot prove anything. Anyone can promise after your death, definitely you can go to heaven if you follow their religion. But there is no evidence to prove. They also said, if you do not follow this religion, you will have to go to hell. Also no evidence to prove. No complaint so far. To come and tell us they missed the target. They know this very well. That is why they say, don't worry, definitely you will be in heaven. One group says, after your death, either in heaven or hell, no other choice. Another group says, why only heaven and hell? There are so many other places. Rebirth can take place as animal, ghost, spirits, devil, human, devas, brahmas and all sort of things. Why only heaven and hell? Then another group says, all these things are rubbish. After our death, there is nothing. Why do we worry about all these rubbish things? This is another group. So the whole world is divided into three groups. One group says only heaven and hell. Another group says not only these two, there are so many other places. Another group says there is nothing. Don't worry. Enjoy your life while you are here. Be wise. You can understand. There are evidences to prove which is right, then accept. The Buddha has given this advice. The group of young people came to see the Buddha. They say there are so many religions, we do not know which religion is correct. The Buddha did not say, forget about all the other religions. Buddhism is the only religion. He never uttered such words. He never said, followed me. No. He said, use your common sense. You can understand many things, but you are misled by many others. If the practices are good for you and bad for others, don't accept. If the practices are good for the others and bad for you, don't accept. Consider in both ways. If good for you as well as for others, then accept. In the end, he found out these young people do not believe that there will be another life after our death. They were free thinkers. The Buddha did not try to influence them to accept. Definitely there will be another life hereafter. What did he say? He said, you should not worry about the next life. You do your duty while you are here, without neglecting your duties. By fulfilling all your duties, without wasting your valuable human life, you can satisfy. See the technique. But when we fulfill our duties, if we do not neglect all our bounden duties, automatically we are molding our next life. Not necessary to point out. There are risks. This is another technique of the book. So in your case also, you should not worry about your next life. Do your work without making mistakes, without disturbing others, without swindling and bluffing and cheating others. Whether there will be another life or not, it is immaterial. You can die peacefully without any guilty feeling in your mind. If there is rebirth, that one never become unfortunate one, because you have not violated anything here. So this is the meaning of Sattha Deva Manussanam, the teacher of the Devas and the human being. Now you can understand how he has guided the whole mankind to lead a respectable religion, a noble life. So with these few words, I thank you once again for having invited me to speak these few words. Thank you.